Hi, it's Lenneke from Lens Crafty Life, and I just wanted to share with you all the papers that I have made or that I've dyed. I didn't make the papers, but they're just copy papers, basically quite thin paper. But I dyed these over the last few weeks in using different coloring methods, all natural. And I just wanted to share this with you. This is the very first batch that I've ever done. It was with coffee, and it was like the coffee granules. And I thought, well, let's try a different technique, like crumpling it all up. So I scrunched the paper up, and I thought that the dye would kind of pick the coloring, the pigment more in the crackles, but it didn't really do that. So I don't think I'll do that again. It does have a very nice grungy look to it, so I do very much like it. So what I did basically is just to boil some hot water, put some coffee granules in. Maybe I'll do a proper tutorial later on how I did this, but there's loads of tutorials out there which are very good. So I left it for a while, then put in the papers. Now this batch is kind of like the scrunched up papers, but I do really like this one. And then basically to dry them, so I left them in the boiling water, put them in like an oven roasting dish basically, and left them in only for a few minutes. Really, it took the pigment very well. Excuse me. And then I put them in the oven, and of course, you know me, I'm not very patient. So first I put them in, like I saw a video of somebody putting in a whole stack together, all on top of each other in the oven, but it took so long to dry. First I thought, well, that would be time save. They all dry like the whole batch in one go, but they just wouldn't dry properly. Well, the top ones would, but they would be completely soaked still in the middle. So then I thought, well, let's do 4 at the time, and that would still take too long. And then actually I saw a lady saying she had a quicker method, because this was all at a very low temperature, so you would have to leave it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and then it would still come out soaked because I stacked them. So then I saw this video of a lady who would put it on a higher temperature, which is about, I think, about 170 degrees Celsius, that is, which is, oh, let me quickly get my thingy. Just a sec, I'm back. Well, I can get it off. Okay, I got this this is a magnet that I have on my oven. I got it years and years ago in the UK at Lakeland, which is a great cooking shop. So it says Fahrenheit, Celsius, marks. So I did it at 170 degrees Celsius, which is about 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, still for me, that didn't go fast enough. So I decided to up the temperature even. I upped it to 180 degrees. So that's 350 Fahrenheit, but then I ran, I'm out of breath straight away. I have no condition, I'm sorry. So, but then I put them in the oven only 2 next to each other. So I didn't stack them, 2 next to each other, and I've got 4 racks in the oven, so I could do 8 at a time. And I only keep them in for about 4 minutes. So I set a timer and I don't walk away. And then that went pretty fast. So then by the time you put in the last rack, you almost can take out the first rack. The first rack is almost done, which is excellent. So that's how I'm doing it now, at 180 degrees or 350 Fahrenheit for only 4 minutes. Don't walk away, otherwise it may burn. You may be surprised to find a fire in your kitchen. So what I used also is to get, I'm not sure if you can see it over here. It's very light. It's almost like, I'm not sure how you call this. I think you call this graph paper, like with the squares. And it took it better in some pages. Well, here you can see it. It's very light. I'm not sure if the camera picks that up. But also when I was in the UK years ago, I picked up this mat It's like it's a grit mat, but it's flexible. And I got that, well, I'm talking maybe 12 years ago or something, or 10 years ago. I got that in the UK at, I think it was Poundland. Yeah, I think it was Poundland. So it was very cheap. And this is actually a grit that you put on top of the on top of your normal grit, but it's for if you fry your own fries. So if you you do oven baked fries, and this is so that your fries won't fall down into the dish, but they stay up in the air. And then, of course, top and bottom get fried at the same time or get cooked at the same time, so you don't need to turn over every single fry, which, knowing me, I'm the impatient one. I wanted this. So now I don't do oven fries anymore, but I do use this now to get like that little grit. So I just put the paper on the oven rack. This is all the crunch ones. See if I can find a better one. And this is like torn because it's very thin paper. And when you take it out, sometimes it may tear, but I don't mind that. It just adds to the grungy look. Love this one. Again, very grungy. They're not all torn because some are torn. Here you can see a little bit of the grit of this one that I used. Hope I'm in focus. Let's see. So these are all crunched, crumpled. This one I did not crumple. Here you can also see a little bit of the grit here in the middle. Now I do think I have some way you can see it better. I put in some envelopes here. Again, you can see the grit, but it was quite funny because here it didn't take the grit, but it left like the little dots in between, very black. So I do like that. When you do envelopes, make sure, here again, it's that grit. Make sure that the water goes in it. Otherwise this will just stay white. So, oh, here you can, yeah, this is quite funny. Because here it took kind of the coloring in the grit, like in the little squares. But here it took the coloring of the grit itself, you see? And I have no idea how I did that. Maybe one was on top and the other was on the bottom. Probably. I have no idea. This one. Let me see if I have a... Oh, here. This is where you see the grit very, very much. You see? I love that. It's almost like graph paper. Here, the lines. I used this one. This is another like baking rack, or even sometimes your microwave will come with something like this, but then obviously it's round. So I use that here just to get a different effect. Now these are not crumpled. I don't know how you call it. These are all flat. This is again with that grit. I've got a lot more paper, so I'm to show you. So I'm going over it quite quickly. These holes is actually the side of the baking tray that I put it in. And this was a baking tray that was actually a little bit smaller, and I didn't want to overlap the papers because usually when it overlaps there will be more white. There will be less coloring in it. So it overhang the baking tray, and it took like the eyes of the baking tray, which is really nice. This is again the stripy one. Now I also used this grit, and again you have to take care with these grits because the grit is attached on this side. Now that side I put down because it's lower than this side. Of course here it may not touch the paper, it's thicker. Not sure if I'm clear on that. So that grit I got in here as well somewhere. I'm not sure. Here you can see where it kind of the papers overlapped. So then this is a lighter strip, which may be nice as well. So these are all the coffee ones. Then what I did use as well, not sure if I'll recognize that paper now. I saw some ladies having like a doily kind of shape in it. Now I know you can do it with like plastic doilies, but then of course you shouldn't put it in the oven because plastic will melt, at least at these high temperatures. So I thought, I'm smart, I have a dehydrator. So I'll pop it in the dehydrator, and then it didn't do a thing. So they didn't take it at all. So I have to figure out something there that it will take the plastic doily kind of background grits. I know somebody did it under a lamp of a chick, like a chick heating, like for eggs to hatch, which is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, I figured out, which is 40 degrees Celsius. So I thought I'd do it in my dehydrator at 40 degrees Celsius, but it didn't work at all. So I think the heat needs to come probably from above to get that with your plastic doilies. So what I did try, I can't find it now, but I did try out these. These are cast iron, painted obviously, cast iron coasters. So I thought these can go in the oven because they're cast iron. Only with this one, the paper kind of got stuck to it. It may be because the paint they used on here is glossy, I'm not sure. Again, if you use these, it will work, but I put them in too late. So I do have only 2 that I tried it on. Can't find them now in this stash, but it was very, very light. You could hardly see it, but I could see it would work if I put it in straight away on the wet paper. I only put it in when the paper was already a bit dry, so it didn't take it. So I tried this one as well, but this one, if you get these for this purpose, you can see it's not flat, so it's like a, well, on this side it's a hump, on this side it's the opposite of a hump. So when you put it down, this middle part is not touching the paper, it's only the circle. So you could use this to make just circles in your paper. And this one did work better, but again, I can't find it in my batch. Sorry about that. But it came out very lightly because I didn't put it in straight away. This is very flat. And it's also a very matte paint that's on it. So next time I'll try it out. Put it on straight away when the paper is soaking wet. And then dry it in the oven. So these are all cast iron. So if you find these, I all got these in secondhand stores, thrift shops, church shops, whatever you like to call them. So they were very cheap. So keep your eye out for these because they can go in the oven and you get this beautiful kind of doily effect when you put them in straight away on the very wet paper. Let me see if I can quickly, I thought I'd kept them separate. No, well, takes too long to find those, but trust me, it will work. Then I used, what did I do next? I think I did this one. This is the turmeric dyed paper. Now it's very light. I hope the camera will pick it up. Maybe I'll keep it, or this one you could see better. It has a very, I don't think the camera is picking this up. It's more yellow than you can see. That's a bummer. Maybe my lighting isn't good enough. Anyway, this is quite, maybe see if I have a white piece of paper. I'll just get a white piece of paper. Maybe the camera will adjust the lighting. Just a sec. Okay, then you can hopefully, yeah, there you go. Now you can see the difference. You see? This is just plain white. And now you can see that this is actually quite yellow. I did this, well, if I keep it right. I did this with turmeric. I had about 1 teaspoon, I think in about 1.5 liters of hot boiling water. I left it in for a stirred it, left it in for a few minutes. And then I put in the paper in the hot water. Now you can see turmeric is of course a powder. So the powdery effect you do get as well if you don't sieve it out. Now I actually quite like that. It doesn't stain anymore. It's just a really nice effect. Here again you can see the grit that I used, the kind of like potato oven baking grit. Oh, now this one is much brighter. Here I kind of smeared it out, but then you see like the smears I made with my fingers, which you can do if that's what you like. but I actually probably prefer it without the smears, but it's just a different effect. So let me keep the white so you can really see they're all stained. It's a very soft yellow. Some are much brighter. So this is all done in a turmeric paper. Now what I did notice is that my second batch that I put in a turmeric paper, you can see the grit very nicely, that the second batch came out much lighter. It was the same mix, but then I think this is the second batch. You can hardly even see it. Well, like this is white. You can see it's very light yellow. So, which is nice as well. And later on, when I was doing my tea, I had the same. That the first batch I put in when the water was hot and boiling, and that took the pigment very well. So I think when the water cools down, it takes the pigment less. Like here, you can hardly see it's yellow. It is very lightly yellow. And then this again, you see the difference. You can pretty much see the difference. This is from the first batch. So put some envelopes in there again with the grid lines that you can see on there. So that worked well. This again is very yellow. So I wanted some yellow paper because I do want to make like a yellow themed journal with some flowers, like a botanical yellow themed journal. And my journals will go up in my Etsy shop, Lens Crafty Shop on Etsy. So that's the turmeric ones. If you have any questions, please, feel free to ask me below. And I hope to be able to answer it. Now this is, I really like this one. This is actually a mushroom colored paper. Now, the way I did this, you can only do a few because I used 250 grams of mushrooms, which is probably about half a pound, little over half a pound. And I love this. If you know the stems of Ranger, this very much is the color of vintage photo. Now the coffee dyed paper that I used, at least the coffee that I got, this is more like the walnut stain. So it's darker, much darker. This is more, it is a warmer tint of brown. And I used the chestnut, I think you call it chestnut, castagne mushrooms, chestnut mushrooms. And I was just cooking for dinner, 250 grams I put it in a baking pan, no oil. It was just plain the mushrooms sliced. I did not add any water. It was just, there's a lot of water or moisture coming out of mushrooms when you cook them or bake them. So there was nothing added, just plain mushrooms in a baking pan. And the liquid that was left was very little, of course. So I could only do 6 pages. So if I would sell these would be very expensive, of course. No, just kidding. But you can't do that much unless you eat a lot more mushrooms, of course. Now, this one is done with this grit, so which is very nice, very grungy looking. But I just love the coloring, so I need to eat more mushrooms. You can't really, it doesn't really pick up the warmth of the color. Can you see that? Well, trust me, it's the vintage photo. Very warm brown this is. This is again with the potato, oven dish potato baking grid. So these are the mushroom liquid dyed papers. Then I did avocado dye. Ta-da! Now again, this is very light. I know some ladies do it, get a much darker tint. Maybe I didn't use, I think I used about the skin and the pits of about 2 avocados in about a liter. So maybe I need to wait till I have more avocado skins to get it darker. But you can see it does have like a very soft, pale pink hue to these papers, which I think are very pretty. So I didn't crumple any up anymore. Don't think I'll do that. I used one of my grids, so you can see here. So these are, this again very lightly takes the potato grid. So these are my avocado dyed papers, which are very pretty. It's a very, very, very soft pink. And then lastly, what I did was the tea dyed papers. Now, I heard a lady say that she used a rooibos tea. Now, I have some rooibos tea. It was even organic, so these are organically dyed. Very special. And because I bought that one time and nobody's really drinking it, so I thought, well, I may as well use that. Now, this coloring I like very much as well. It's, let me see, if you compare it to the mushroom is slightly darker. This is almost, well, I would almost say more like a yellowy brown. It's not yellow, but it's even a softer brown than the mushroom one. So, and again with this paper, I did do this last week. I do really like them. Again, the color is not coming out totally correctly on camera, I think. Maybe if I, well, that's a bit better. You can see that. But again, this is the first batch, which is much darker, and then the second batch is much lighter. Still, if you see the white, it's still discolored, so I will still use this. But I think it suddenly dawned on me when that happened. I thought, I put these in when the water was hot. I put these in when the water had cooled down. So I think it must be something with, maybe the papers have pores, I don't know. That in the hot water, just like when you have a shower, the pores open up much more, and it will take the pigment much better than when it's when the water has cooled down. So I'll try that out next time. Again, you can see here the grid, the potato grid, very, very lightly. But I want to do more dyeing also with like the doily grids, like the what I showed you. Especially this one. I'll show that in another video the next time. So I already made one journal. Now, where is my journal? Here. And I made this one with a coffee dyed paper. Now, it's not finished yet. This will go up in my Etsy store. And I have to mention a beautiful lady. She's called Nisi. She's from Bella Vintage Notebook here on YouTube. And I'll pop a link down to her channel. If you love this style, you'll adore her work. She is so, so good at this. She has an Etsyshop as well. She does several designs that you are not allowed to copy, but this design you can copy. So this is actually her design. I did do my own little twist on it. But this is a journal, so it's not totally the same as what she did. I took some paper, just some copy paper, put linen over it. I have this beautiful kind of, it's like a silk that I got from Colette from Country Creations a while back, and that's the closure, and it goes actually underneath here, so you see a little bit of a hump. I knotted it around the cotton. I use crochet cotton to sew in the signatures, so that's why it has a little bit of a hump. May not knot it next time. I don't think it needs it, so next time you won't see a little hump. Then I put this crochet trim over it. Beautiful butterfly. This is like a white trim, a pretty little flower. This is like a rose trim, and I really, really like this. So this is a very vintagey journal. Now the pages are finished, but I have to add a few more tags or things. There's nothing in it yet. It's just plain the paper. It has 3 signatures. So this is paper that I put on the inside. Oh, of course, I put this little dangle trim there. Now this is all done with the coffee stained paper. And this is some vintage music paper, which I have not dyed. This is just the original color. Here you can see the grid that I used. I made 3 signatures. You can see that here. It will stand up as well if you want it to stand up. So you can, you know, display it somewhere. And every signature has like this little page from a book. Now that was an idea I got from Nisi. So thank you, Nisi. You're a great inspiration to me. And these are some old book pages here. This is like a pocket. I left them attached. So I need to just make some tags to put them in there. So that's like a pocket. Now here you can see different grids. This is like going to the second signature. This one is stuck on that side. This is all in Dutch. But this is like a tuck spot. You can put something there. Again, the book pages. Now the middle signature mainly has paper full writing. So this is the crumpled up one. This is the flat one that I didn't crumple up. Love this page. This is probably where I put an envelope. So here you can see a point of an envelope. This is the way I sew it in. This is done just with the crochet cotton. Love these papers, very, very grungy looking. I think it's beautiful. So this is my first ever journal that I made. So these are all the papers. When I have done the tags, this one will go up in my Etsy shop. Now, if you are interested in buying any of the papers, let me know and I'll make some more to sell. So this is some other book paper. This is from a dictionary. I think it's French. Yeah, French to Dutch. This is. So there's 3 signatures in here. Lots of pages to write on. This again is like a pocket page. You could put something in here. If you don't like it, you can always cut it open, but I think it's nice to have some pockets. So there you go, my very first journal. Yay! Made with love by Len's Crafty Life. So when it goes up in my Etsy shop, I will let you know. I'll do a proper tutorial on just this one. So I hope that was you enjoyed this and that was useful to you. And thanks so much. Do check out my Etsy shop. There's not much in there yet, but I will add things later on. The more I make journals, the more they will appear in my Etsy shop. But I'll do a video on each and every one of those. So I'll pop a link to my Etsy shop below this video. And thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.